Oh yeah, it's live here. Okay, so I'm just gonna go on Twitter and then post it.
Gabriel, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, I'm gonna stop sharing.
All right. Awesome.
Um, I think my
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing awesome.
Awesome.
It's nice to have you here again after 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's so funny because like I have green in my shirt. So I'm kind of blending in.
Oh,
But the
yeah,
background
I
is
get
a
that.
little invisible right now. I kind of messed up with that one.
Yeah. So it's assuming that the green in your shirt is part of the green background behind you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, luckily, like there's green in the background, so it kind of works out. I'm just gonna look a little translucent at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. Let's start the session. Um, for those who don't know, my name is Elahn or Elahn Dene. Hence my channel name, Dene the developer. But you can just call me Elahn. And Gabriel?
Gabriel, Emmanuel. Yeah, you could just call me Gabriel. So I'm fine with Gabriel. You could call me Emmanuel also. It's fine.
Awesome, awesome, cool. So thank you, if you're tuning in, thank you so much for joining our .NET book study session. I'm excited to expand on what we had discussed last week. Today we're discussing chapters 4 and 5, which are add external package and use a database. So this week we had added our humanizer external package, and now we're working with the database. So yeah, did you want to talk about what you've learned, like your whatever, if you have any notes?
I have like learned a lot actually. And yeah, I have a lot of notes. I hope we'll be able to cover most of them. If not, we're just going to continue on our next call next 2 weeks. Yeah, so I learned a couple of things. Last week we stopped at using the fake to-do item service to save our view.
Yes.
So this week we decided, oh no, why not just create a database where the user stores the to-do in a database and then gets that every time they go through the website. So it's a to-do app, obviously. So all they need to do is there is a form, put the item they want to store, and then click on submit, and then it stores in the database. So the technology behind all of that is what we went through. And while trying to do that, I came across a couple of things. First of all, it is a bad idea to write SQL query string in your code. It is a bad idea. Yeah.
Could you expand on that? It sounds a little bit familiar to me, and maybe I have it in my notes. Like, can you elaborate?
Okay, yeah. So basically, when you're starting to the database, there are a lot of databases out there. There are SQL databases and no SQL databases. And most times with Microsoft products, we use SQL databases a lot. So, and then SQL databases have like these codes for storing information and getting information out of the database. But what the book is saying is it's a bad idea to write SQL query strings in our code. So in place of that, we want to use what's called an ORM, an object relational mapper, right? So a lot of languages and frameworks have their own different object relational mappers. Like Java uses Hibernate, Ruby uses Active Record. There's a couple of ORMs for .NET, like Dapper, like NHibernate, Link to SQL, And then the one we're using, obviously, Entity Framework, which is actually made by Microsoft. So what I learned about ORMs is like they create like a layer of abstraction between your code and the database, right? So you're not writing SQL query, you're writing C# codes that's relating with pure C# classes or pure C# objects, right? And then because of the ORM, it will be able to convert your C# code into SQL query strings that would speak with the database. And that is, a lot better than writing SQL query strings directly into your code. I don't know, what do you think?
I figured that when it comes to coding, especially like C#, the system is really big on using the abstract, never embedding like hard code into into your program, just because things need to be swapped and it could be replaced. Actually, like I have my notes, I just need to move my light real quick to click out of this. 1 second.
All right.
Okay, here it goes. I have like my light attached to my monitor, so.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna slide that back over. Yeah, okay, so. In my notes, I have the importance of always incorporating a layer of abstraction. And this is kind of gets into the definition. The object relational mapper, which is the ORM, is an example of this case. It's used when working with databases. Entity Framework Core is a type of ORM. According to the book, it is like a big interface over your database and allows your C# code the freedom from being stuck with a certain type of database, where you can even swap out different database providers.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I have in mind.
Exactly. So, like for Entity Framework, all you need to do in your service layer or let me see, in your service layer is try to get information from the database. Now, the part that now specifies what databases you're using is in the startup file.
The startup file, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in that startup file. A lot.
Yeah, definitely. You synchronize your service and your interface in the startup file. You specify what database you're using Entity Framework Core, and yeah, there's a lot going on there. But you shouldn't scale us actually, because you just need to know what you need to put and where you need to put it, right? So yeah, so when we wanted to link our interface with our service in the startup file, all we needed to do was services dot add. For the fake one, we use I can't remember now. I'm trying to remember. I know we changed it to add scoped when we were trying to speak with the database.
Add singleton, right?
Singleton, yeah, awesome, yeah. So all you needed to do for the fake one was add singleton, because we only needed to create an instance of that class once. Yeah, but when speaking with the database, each time you call on the database, you're creating an instance of that class. And that's why we needed to change it to scoped. But I believe we'll get there. So we're talking about the ORM, so as not to jump from one point.
That's okay. We're jumping around, but we're going time, making connections.
All right. So so in the startup file, if we're using probably MS SQL, which is Microsoft SQL, all we need to do is specify that we're using Microsoft SQL in the startup file for Entity Framework.
Right.
In this case, we're using, let me see, what we're using. SQLite, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're using SQLite in this case. So what we did was to specify that we're using SQLite, and SQLite is like a simple, lightweight database, just stored in your app. Don't need to install any other softwares or anything, like if you're using maybe Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL or whatever. With SQLite, you don't need to install anything extra. Everything is just
I like
created for
that.
you right there in
I
the
like
app.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
So yeah,
lightweight. I
you
will
can go
say,
on.
because I've had trouble where I was working on a different to-do list. So it was a to-do list, and I was using Blazor, and I tried to download, I won't say the name, but I tried to, because like it might not be that type of database, but it could be my laptop. When I tried to download it onto my laptop, it would not work.
What
So
database was that?
huh?
What database was that?
It was Docker, but I don't know if that was,
Oh, Docker. Okay, Docker,
yeah.
Docker, Docker, Docker.
I don't know if it's
Uh,
because like maybe there's an incompatibility, or if it's just my laptop, maybe I don't have enough storage. But when I saw that like this book requires, SQLite, it's already in your program, I was like, oh, thank you.
you just didn't
So,
need to install any other thing extra.
yeah, at
Just
least for
specify that
this.
that's what you want to use and all of that, and then it works.
Exactly. Yeah, so okay. Is it okay if I like go from the top with my notes?
Awesome. Yeah,
I
please.
kind of I want to discuss chapter 4,
Okay.
add external packages. So the humanizer package. I think
Yeah.
that is pretty cool. Like the fact that there is a package that turns data, which is like super clunky, computerific type of like data, into something more human, something that kind of fits and mends with our psychology and the way we look at things. I
Something
thought
more
that was
readable.
really cool. Like a
Yeah.
really cool thing to even like think about making. So I like that. I just had to add that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so the humanizer package is gotten from Nuggets, which we so remember when you said you read somewhere in the book that ASP.NET is like a compilation of Nugget packages.
Yeah. And that was like a big part on my notes. Basically, ASP.NET Core is just nothing but a collection of NuGet packages.
Yeah.
That was like what really like kind of drove it home for me. I'm like, okay, I see what's going on now.
So I actually went through. I decided to go through the all projects, clicking from folder to folder, trying to look for the NuGet packages, and I think I did find it, and then made it make sense in a way. Just visualizing all of the different packages and seeing how they like probably come together made it make sense in a way. And then Humanizer is like a third party NuGet package. So what that means is someone somewhere decided, oh, okay, let me create a library that would make dates more readable to humans. Yeah, and I really like that, and it's actually making me feel like, okay, why don't I look for something that I want to solve? Create like a NuGet package, and then know that people are actually using my library to solve something. And I'm going to look into that. I don't know. I'm going to try to look into that. It's like a daunting task, but I'm going to try to look into that.
Yeah, no, like that is like such a good point. Like basically the fact that these packages is just a collection of solutions. Like people saw a problem and they thought, hey, what can I do to make this more like streamlined or compatible with the way we like humans work with computers and think about our computers, like just solving problems. And I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, and it does like raise the question, like, what can I do? Like, how can
what
I
can you do? What can I do? Yeah. How can I help?
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
can I come in here? All right. So as I just looked into my notes and I wrote this dependency injection. Do you remember reading about that?
Yeah. And I had also like kind of reviewed that this morning as well. Yes, I'll say that. Yes, I remember.
Okay. So what's like your thoughts on that? What do you think that is? How it helps and all of that?
Okay, so when I think of, and I actually wrote down this note, it was a quote from the book. And let me know if I'm not answering your question. But so this is the quote, because the services are injected from the service container, this pattern is called dependency injection. So I assume the service container is in the startup file, where you like scroll down and you see the list of services dot or add services. That's the service container, right? I hope I have it
So
right.
I think the service container is like the services folder. You have the interface and then the service itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's the service container.
Okay.
We probably
In the
would need
starter
to ask.
file?
No, in the services folder where you have the I to do service and the to do service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I think that's the service container, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so now linking the interface with the service is what we're doing in the startup file. So I remember somewhere in the book where it was mentioned that sometimes you have different service file implementing a particular interface.
Mhm.
Now, so letting your app know which of the service file you're using at a particular period of time is what you do in the startup file when you say services.add singleton or add scoped, then you put in the interface on the left and the service on the right, in the brackets. Yeah, in the, what's that called now? That's not brackets. So that's like an angle brackets. No, the angle brackets. Yeah, the angle bracket. So you have, I don't know. I think maybe I should share my screen.
Yeah, share your screen. That's a great idea.
Let me see if I can do
that.
that. Give me a second to see if I can bring up the code. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay. So let me see. Share screen. Can you enable me share screen? I think it's disabled.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, 1 second. How about now?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh,
So I'm gonna share my screen now. Awesome. I have like a lot on my screen, so just it's this.
I like the background. It looks
Thank
so
you.
cool, like camping and stuff. Oh man.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm bringing up the code now. It's coming up shortly. Oh, what's this? Come on. Why are you acting up? I think I need to bring it up again.
Okay. Yeah, take your time.
All right. It's coming up. Okay, yeah, it is. All right, awesome. So yeah, it is. So the startup file. Yeah, so when I was talking about the service container, I was talking about this particular part. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes, I can. It looks perfect.
All right. So this we have the interface here, and then we have the service that's implementing the interface,
Right.
and then a fake to do item that was implementing the interface. So this service and this service, they're both implementing this interface. Now, to make our app know which one of the services we want, then we'll go into the startup file and then write, okay, it's coming up, yeah. So go into the startup file and then you write this services.add scopes, I to do item service, which is our interface, and then to do item service, which is the service, and then all of that is inside all of this angle brackets, and then followed by parentheses, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all this does is tells our app that, okay, we have this interface and we want it to, we want this service to be what is implementing the interface, right? So if I were to change this service to fake, I think that's to do service, I can't remember.
Fake to do.
Service. Yeah, so I think that's what it's there. Fake to do item service, actually. Fake to do item service. All it's telling the app is use this service to implement this interface. They're both implementing the interface. Only thing is, one of them is using add coded to do items, while the other one is getting the information from the database.
Right.
So that is what this is doing.
So that folder, the services folder, is the service container.
Yes, to the best of my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so yeah. So what brought us here is dependency injection, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use the services folder for that. Okay, right here. So we have this. So I'm just going to make it separate so it's clear. All right. So right here we have the constructor, the to-do item service constructor. And then what a constructor does is immediately the class is mentioned. So the constructor is a special method that calls that's called when you want to create a new instance of the class, right? So you're creating a new instance of the class. The first method that's called is a constructor, right? So that is why we are using dependency injection to bring in our database through this context variable, right? So the constructor, this is the constructor, we're passing in our database, yeah, and then we're creating a variable that's like saying that, oh, okay, so immediately you call this class, you create a new instance of the database right here, and then we'll be able to use that instance to either get items from the database or add items to the database right here.
Yeah.
So that's what the dependency injection does. So when the class is called, which is being done here in the to-do controller now. So now we're calling the to-do item service, which is referenced to the to-do. We're calling the interface here, which is referenced to the service here. So immediately we call the service. What it does first is calls this method, this constructor method. And then what this constructor method does is it initializes the database here using this application DB context. And then we can use this initialize context to either get items from the DB or add items to the DB. I think that is what is happening in the simplest of ways, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
So,
explaining that. Because I will say, like, sometimes like looking and like learning the details, I kind of lose out on the bigger picture. And that's how I learned too. It's like putting everything in context. And thank you for explaining constructor.
okay, yeah, that's
From our
fine.
last meeting, I was still kind of fuzzy on what an interface was and what a constructor was. I even had, a meeting with my mentor, and we discussed, what an interface was and what it does. And basically, he told me to think of the interface as a blueprint. And your program can be, you can have different programs, which are different houses, but the interface, which is the blueprint, it can stay the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And then
yeah. So yeah,
that
that's what, okay. Continue, please. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You use that interface in different classes or like different programs to build. And it can be the same interface, but you can implement it differently. That's how I've come to understand it. It might take me a little more time to understand like the constructor. It might take me
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry. Can we go back
no
again?
worries.
All right. So I was actually, I was following up on YouTube, and then for some reason something happened, so I had to check up on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So please, can you say that again?
Yeah, of course. So the interface is basically the blueprint, and it can be implemented in different ways, different instances, and different programs or different classes, but that interface stays the same.
Yeah.
And it's just a blueprint, and it prevents you from hard coding your program, which makes it a bit vulnerable, especially if you have to debug it. Which is kind of like how I understand like an ORM. But with a constructor, I still probably need a little bit more time. You said the constructor is what you use to create a new instance of a class. Is that correct?
That's probably not the best way to put it. So it's like the first method that is called when you're creating an instance of a class. So the constructor is a special method. It's a method actually, right? So if you notice, it's like I'm going to share my screen again.
Thank you. That will help.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go into, let me see, let me go into the services container and the to-do item service. So right now, this is a method, right?
Yes.
Awesome. This is another method, right?
Yes.
And then this is a method, right? The only difference between this method and this method is this method is taking the name of the class, right? And that makes it the constructor, right? So it's like the it's like a special class, right? So when you call or when you initialize a class, you do not need to call this method. So okay, let's go. I'm going to leave this open, and then I'm going to also open up to do controller and leave this open also, then separate the screens. Okay, so this should help. Zoom out a bit. Okay, this is fine, right? So now when this is our controller, right? So in the controller, right here, I am calling this method. This gets incomplete items async, which is, let's see, which is this method right here, right?
Right. Yes.
Awesome. So I'm calling this method here. And also in the add item service, I'm calling the other method here. But then I do not need to call the to do item service method, because immediately I try to use this class, it calls this method and then checks this method and sees what the method is trying to do. And in this case, the method is trying to create an instance of our database context, right? And then we can now use the instance that is created to do whatever we want to do. Probably get items from the DB, which is what we're doing here, or adding items to the DB, which is what we're doing here. So we do not need to specify that, oh, I am trying to call the to-do item service method constructor. We do not need to specify that. Immediately we try to access that class, that constructor is called, and then whatever is happening right in there, you know, would take effect. So in this case, what we're doing is we're creating an instance of the DB. Awesome. And this is another constructor for our to-do controller. So when you try to access the to-do controller, it checks this method and says, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to do? We're trying to create an instance of our to-do item service, right? So when you create an instance of that service, you can use that instance to carry out whatever method you want to carry out. So we just use the instance to get incomplete items async, and that is why we had to change from singleton to scoped.
Yeah. So right? In to-do controller, that's a constructor.
Yeah, this is a constructor.
Got it. Okay, because I'm seeing
and it's very simple to create a constructor. In my case, I use what's it called now? Trying to remember what this is called. I can't remember. So it's like a shortcut. All I need to do is CTOR and then tab, and then a constructor is created, right?
Yeah, the constructor.
And I can do whatever I need to do right here in the pass whatever argument I need to pass in here.
Right.
Whatever I need to do, and then the name, and then do whatever I need to do in there. So it's very easy to create a constructor. It's not that difficult.
I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna spend it more. And I think like with the repetition and recognizing patterns, that's when it'll really nail it in for me. So so thank you so much for explaining that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if like I'm missing anything. Oh, okay. So apparently there are 4 things that we need in order to connect to a database. Do you remember what those 4 things could be?
To connect to a database, are you talking about the NIGE packages?
That's one thing. I'll just say. So what I've learned is that the 4 things needed to connect to a database are entity framework core package, a database, and a database context class, and a connection string. So
yeah.
I wrote that down as like the 4 things that you need to connect to a database.
Yeah.
I want to read. I think in the book he said that to connect to a database, use the entity framework core package along with a database context class, and the connection string that's when you kind of connect it to the database. Let me see if I can find the actual quote though, because I feel like I'm butchering it. 1 second.
No, you're not. Okay. I think that's exactly, we need those 4 things. You need the package, the ORM package, we need the database context class, and that's where we're going to specify DB sets, which is like a set of tables for our object or our class. And then we need a connection string that's going to tell, okay, we'll use SQL Server, but then which SQL Server? So we need to connect our app to the actual database using a connection string. And then what's the last one? What's the last one? Did I cover everything? I think I did.
Yeah, okay, so in the book it says entity framework core.
Yeah, I mentioned
the
that.
Database context together with the connection string to establish a connection to the database.
Yeah, so yeah, that's everything. So yeah, you got that right. That's pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, you need to tell entity framework core which context, connection string, and database provider to use in the configure services method of the startup class. So that's like good to remember. Like you just need, you need to tell entity framework core those three things: the database provider, the connection string, and the context. Could you explain your understanding of what a database context is again?
Let me see. I'm going to share my screen one more time.
Awesome, that sounds great.
This will probably help. So I'm going to close all of this. Close all. Bring up my directory, data, and then application DB context. Okay, so this is the DB context file. Okay. Yeah, so this is the DB context file. And it's like a file that we use to, create tables in the database, right? Yeah, so I'm not sure how else to explain this, but we use this to create tables in the database. So we have this DB sets property.
Yes.
Yeah, and then items. So the DB set is taken into do item, which is this model we have right here. So that's the model we're using to collect information from the view. Yes. So going to collect the title of the to-do item from the view, and then all of this ID and everything. And then, so this is the model that we're going to be storing in the database. So in the application DB context, now we're saying that we want our application to create a table of to-do item properties. So the ID, the due date, the title, all that everything, all the property, and then create it in a table called items. Right? So if we check, if we're able to check our database, we're going to see a table called items, and then if we open it and check the columns, we're supposed to see all of this properties. The ID is done, title, and due at, right? Yeah. So it does a lot more than just creating tables. The application DB context in this case does a lot more than just creating tables, but then I think that's like its primary goal, to create tables for you in the database. Right. And then I think it's also a link between your app and the database. So remember when we injecting it in this app, the application DB context. So we're using the same application DB context to get items from the database and then to add items to the database. So yeah, it does a lot more than just creating tables. It helps to get information from the database, and it also helps to add information to the database. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that helps.
No, that helps a lot. Thank you so much for explaining that. Yeah, and I guess like sometimes like when you're writing the code, you kind of forget, and like I've said before, you kind of forget the context of the data types that you're using. So you really brought it home for me when you had clicked into the to-do item model class, because like it brought into, there was context with that, and I I kind of like forgot.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
fine.
realize that. So
It's fine.
thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, let's see. In migrations, one of our members, we discussed this in the group chat, and one of our members of the book club, she had explained it to me.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what I have in my notes, and you let me know if there's anything I'm missing or if you want to add anything. So in my notes, I have, so migrations are, it's basically migrating your database code, taking the code of an already existing database and merging it with the new code in the DB context, initializing the DB context with the database. And you mostly kind of only do this once. I'm not sure, and that's pretty much all I have. Would you be able to expand or give me your idea and your understanding of it?
Migrations. The migrations file. Okay, so I think it's just like a middleman between your app and the database itself. It keeps track of where your database is. So just in case there are changes to your database, then it should know. Okay, so the migrations file should know, and then when you're trying to update your database, or it's able to get that updates, that change, and then update your database. And yeah, so I think it's a file that just keeps track of your models. That's your database models. So in the first place, you're not supposed to have a migrations files, except probably when you create the app using the commands from the ASP.NET book. So when you're creating the app with an authentication, then you're supposed to have like a migrations file. But at that point, your migrations file does not know what tables you want to add to your database, because at that point you're not having any to-do item table and any of that. So your migrations file is just there. But then when you create the tables that you want to add to your database, and you type in the commands to add migrations, what the migrations file does, it keeps track of that change, and it says, oh, previously you don't have this table, but right now you're having this table, and this is the table you want to update to your database. Let me just share my screen again.
Yeah, that sounds great. You know,
Yeah,
in a
please.
weird way, I kind of, when reading it, I kind of figured like, so is it almost like Git, like how we use Git to keep track of the changes of our code? Is our migrations basically the Git of databases? That's kind of
so Git's like a version control. So it just keeps track of your files. It knows where you stopped and where you're going. And so, so I think Git is like a perfect example for us. So I'm just going to show this. Let's see. This is the migrations folder, and I use to do as my name for my migrations.
Okay.
And this is what we have here. So right now, prior to making these migrations, I checked, and then we didn't have all of this. I think we just add this create identity. We didn't have anything about our to-do tables. And then, so after creating the migrations, it created this file with the name of my migration. And then you could see that, oh, it has these two methods, up, and down. Right? So this up method is called when you're updating your database. So the other command, like you're trying to update your database using, let me see if I can remember the command. Coming. So I think that will be .NET EF. Oh, okay. Let me see. Give me a second. System is acting up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So .NET EF database updates. So when you type in this command and press enter, what it does is it calls this method. And then what this method is saying is, okay, migrations builder, create table. What's the name of the table? Items. Remember, sorry. So remember that in let's see, in our DB context, give me a second. Yeah, DB context. When we did this, we named it items, right? So now what our migrations file is saying, okay, create a table with the name items, and then the columns in the table would be ID, and then saying, okay, this is the data type, and is it nullable? False. Remember, one of them is nullable, which is our dates, right? So you can take in null values. The other ones cannot take in null values, right? It's done, data type, Boolean, title. So it just creates all of this and then it specifies that the primary key is the ID, right? So the ID is like the primary key to specify the ID of each item that is stored in the table. But then when you do the reverse, I can't remember the command for this. When you're trying to undo a migration, so you're like, okay, oh no, I don't want to migrate this table. Then there's let me see. I can't remember the command, but then when you do that, all it does is it calls this and then it says drop table, right? And then it changes our updates and it's going back to the previous state it was before this updates.
Right.
So basically, I think that's what the migrations file is for. It's just to keep track of updates to our DB or our classes that we're using for our databases.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like I kind of want to see if I can find it on like, okay, so I'm under the migrations chapter. Oh, .NET EF database drop.
Yep. That's the commands to drop the database, right?
Yeah, I think that's the one right there.
Okay, probably, yeah, it's probably that one. I can't really remember, so I wouldn't say for sure. But that's fine. Yeah, so it's pretty simple. And then when you do the migrations, it tells you, oh, okay, if you want to undo this migration, it tells you the command. So yeah, it's not really difficult to get.
Yeah. So, okay, so anytime you update your database context, you need to also update through migrations, update, like make it in sync, make your database in sync, and you will type in the terminal .NET EF
migrations
update. And that's anytime you tinker with your database context.
Yeah, anytime you change something in your DB context.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like I have some notes from the application, like actually doing the project. There was a little speed bump that I ran into when doing the project. It was the application user. And let me pull up my code. So yeah, and maybe I should share my screen as well. Let's see.
Oh, okay, please do. I'd like to see what your app looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Okay. You can see my screen.
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. So, okay. when I was working on this part, the application database context, one thing an issue that I ran into is when I had typed up this code, everything was great except for application user. And I couldn't really find, like, it was a red squiggly line under application user.
Okay.
And I couldn't really find anything like in the book on like what that is and how to avoid it. But like with a quick Google search, I found a Microsoft doc that really helped. So basically what I needed to do was create a model class titled application user. So we'll click into this. And I typed up this simple code.
You created a new class, yeah?
Yeah, a class. Basically,
and then inherited from identity user.
Yeah, I think the application user is inheriting from the identity user class.
Yeah, that's what is happening.
And I also, like, at first when I typed that up, it did not work. But looking at the Microsoft doc, it showed that it's important to add
the using statements.
And after that, it ended up working. I was so happy because I was a little nervous, like, oh my gosh, like,
what's happening?
Are you gonna be able to get through this stuff? Especially, if you, like, I couldn't even update my migrations.
Yeah, because it wouldn't build.
This issue.
Yeah, that's fine. So you're able to solve that on your own. That's pretty great.
Yeah. That's pretty great. It's just a good feeling to, like, do my own research, and get those solutions. And that's what's so great about Microsoft Docs is that they just have so much information. And if you run into an issue, they clearly list out, like, all the information you need, the using directives, especially like a description of everything that you're researching on. So that came in handy.
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, that's really great. It's nice to see that you're able to solve that on your own by just looking at the docs. So that means the docs are very helpful. Yeah, so the docs are very helpful. Just patiently try to go through the docs and see what you need, get what information you need, and then be able to solve whatever issues you come across.
Right. Yeah. It was such a good feeling. Another thing that I thought was cool, and it was my first time kind of seeing it, was the where method.
Yeah. So that's I put that down somewhere. Let me see. That is a feature of C# called LINQ, language integrated query. Yeah, so it's a special method that just makes things quite easy. It's like syntactic sugar. I think that's what it's called, syntactic sugar. It's a special method that just performs a command. And yes, I think they did a lot of LINQ commands. Yeah, that's what I'll call them, LINQ commands that's available to us. So I think we've checked the Microsoft Docs and just check LINQ queries or LINQ commands. We'll see all of them and how they're used. Yeah, so the where method is very helpful. Yeah, I did see that too.
Yeah, like I thought that was so cool and pretty, like, straight to the point. It's almost like a conditional method. I would say.
Yeah, a way to filter through your database.
Yeah, I thought that was, like, super straightforward, very easy to understand. I really liked seeing that exists. One issue I am coming across is that when I do my URL, like the localhost 5000, and my mentor helped me get through this issue, is when I would go to the localhost 5000 URL, it would be an error. Like my homepage isn't showing up. I have to add in my URL a / to do. And
Okay.
and it will then direct me to my to-do list page. I don't know if that's happening for you.
I think that's because you do not have a home constructor.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so you
Could you
probably
show
need.
me what
Okay,
that
okay.
looks like? I don't know if you have that
So
available.
I did I say constructor? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Home
no.
controller. I meant to say home controller.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. That
yeah.
makes
So
a lot of sense.
yeah, so remember in your startup when you check through when you go down to this part, says use endpoint. So it's like the default endpoint is controller home and action index. So when you go to localhost 5001 or
Yeah,
5000, all it does is checks for the controller home and then the action index, which is right here. So you checks for
right.
this home controller and then it checks for this action. And then this is the first place it comes to. So if you do not have this, then it's not going to work. Then if you do not have this, like if probably I remove this
Yeah,
and I go to localhost 5001, it wouldn't work. But if I go to localhost 5001/home/privacy, that would work
yeah.
because then I have this privacy page.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
So
you
could
need,
you, yeah, I just want to look at that.
okay, do you want me to test that out? I don't know if, let me say, let me see. I don't know how
Yeah, like
fast
if you
that
want
will
to
be.
test that out, like that sounds good to me.
I don't know how fast that will be. .NET Run. Let's see. So I'm trying to run the app now. It's gonna take a couple of seconds to
Yeah, no worries.
run.
I don't know if you can hear my stomach growling. I'm like so hungry right now.
All right, I would be done shortly. So I think
Yeah,
we've
no worries.
exhausted an hour already. I think we've exhausted an hour already. And we've talked about a
Yeah.
lot, so that's fine. And we'll probably just continue in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
just feel like
let's just touch on this. And I don't know. So my system is pretty old. I'm sorry, and it has
yeah,
a lot of things running on it. So it's pretty
you're
slow.
fine.
So it's pretty slow. But it's gonna run shortly. Okay, while that is happening, let me see. I'm going to create a new. Where's my edge here? Let me just open up this.
Okay.
So while that is happening, so I don't have to delay all of that. Okay, so this is yeah, this is the book.
Well,
Yeah. So
the
I'm gonna
star of
create
the
a
show.
new private window. And let's see if it's run already. Okay, so because I'm trying to perform a lot of actions at the same time, it's just dragging. Oh my God. Okay, so our window is up.
Mhm.
Now I need for my app to run.
I mean, like honestly, like we could also do this like off.
So
Um,
I'm just HTTPS. So no, you can continue speaking. I'm just trying to prepare everything before my apps runs. So it's not like I'm waiting for that to happen. But what
yeah,
were you saying?
I was just gonna say like if it ends up running like pretty long, we could
Yeah,
always
it's
do
it's, it's
like
about to run now.
yeah, we could always do this like after the
Oh, okay.
stream.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, I understand like my laptop, it's so weird. It loves to pick and choose when it wants to run.
Okay, so
Oh wait,
I think it's running now. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I
that's
see.
so I'm going to press enter now. It's not supposed to work because we don't have home index action. So it's going to throw an error. Can you see that it's throwing at the 404 that says the localhost approach can be found, right? But if I choose and slash home slash privacy, it's going to find that the privacy page, and then it's going to load that.
Okay, so would you do that with index as well? Like you would do like,
yeah, if I even if I do with index, it's not going to work because I deleted the index action.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so the index action is no longer there to return the view. So it's not going to find it anywhere.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because when I would get the error, I noticed that the program wouldn't even run my to-do, like it wouldn't even run the to-do controllers. So thank you for showing me that. That makes a lot of more sense.
Yeah, so if your page is showing like a 404, you check the controller first to see if the controller is there. If the controller is there, then you check the view to see if the view is there also. So one of those two things is going to probably cause your page to throw a 404.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. That makes a lot more sense because I really thought like maybe I was just doing it wrong. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So now it's working.
And I always
I returned the index. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was just gonna say I always hate like getting an error message.
Yeah,
like, what did I do now?
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting,
especially when you try to solve one error and then you solve that, and then next time something else pops up, and then you solve that, and then next time you're like, can you just stop and run already?
Yeah, like I just want to win.
Yeah, I get that.
So okay, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much all the notes I have for today.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, we're going to continue on everything next week.
Yeah.
Oh no, next 2 weeks actually. Next 2 weeks. Yeah.
I'm so happy. Like this was a great chat. I wanted to say like today's my birthday, so I felt.
Oh really? Oh yeah. That's great. Wow, that's great. Yeah. That's great.
So like I'm so happy that I get to start my day with
talking about C#.
Yeah, and like I feel like it really like stuff like this really sets the tone for the day. It's like this and also hiking.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, C# in the morning or hiking in the morning, it makes my day, the rest of my day
hiking
better. Yes, hiking. I love hiking.
Oh really? Yeah, I do too actually. I do too actually.
Awesome. I love being in nature, being connected to the earth.
Actually, I have an Instagram page for my adventures. I just created that shortly, not quite long ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, wow. So I love hiking and like I love traveling also. So yeah.
Wow.
It's like something I do on the side.
Do you want to plug in your Instagram page for anyone?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Let me see. Okay. Let me see if I can get that. Share my screen. So where do you hike to?
Sometimes it's local. I will say I'm kind of new to this, so I won't lie and say that I'm like an expert. But yeah, I love to see like a good waterfall. I love to see trees, mountains, or even like, I'm not really a desert person, but like the desert does have some pretty views. I will say like, especially like if it's like a sunrise or a sunset. But yeah, like my goal is to go camping. Like
that's awesome
this year. So
so I just created this. I created this not quite long for adventures. Good. I went to the mountains. I went to see a waterfall. Yeah, went to a couple of resorts also, and yeah,
That
So
is
yeah,
so
you could follow
cool.
me. Anyone here could just follow me, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
I
I
feel
hope
like I
to
have to do that now. Oh my God.
I
And
hope to
that's
see
so
some nice
fun.
places. Yeah, I hope to see some nice
Wow.
places. So the ID is egosa_wanderlust. I will probably put it in the bio of this
Yeah, I'll do
video.
that. I'll do that.
All right.
Fun. Well, yay. Thank you so much for sharing. This really made me happy. Like, I love to see other people who like hiking just as much as I do, who likes exploring the world. And I will say, like, especially like with being at home more often and especially learning how to code, we're kind of behind a laptop or computer for hours of the day, especially if we have full-time work as well.
Mhm.
So it's awesome to just unplug
And do
and
something else, something
do
that's
something
fun
else,
to you.
go outside, smell the fresh air, and get more in touch with nature. So that is
Yeah,
exciting. Thank you so much
yeah,
for sharing.
yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and thank you all for tuning in
Watching,
and for
yeah,
watching and joining us in this .NET book study session. I'm excited for our next meeting. It's
one.
gonna be fun.
And thanks, Nate, for writing this book. It's really, really rudimentary, really simple to
Yes,
understand. Yeah,
thank
we're
you
going to
so
keep
much.
discussing on it in our next call. All
Uh,
right. Thank you, Elaine. Bye.
bye.